I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Rita Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In today's episode, I hung out with Boozy Book Broads co-hosts and romance authors Angelina M. Lopez and Melanie Johnson. Angelina and Melanie chatted about their virtual event series, their recent releases, and the first romance novels they ever read. And all three of us played Romance Superfan. Enjoy, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, Angelina. Hi, Melanie. Welcome to Rita Seeks Romance.
Hi, Liz. Thank you.
You are 2/3 of the Boozy Book Broads. Can you share what is Boozy Book Broads and what motivated you to form this dynamic trio?
That's right. These are these phenomenal cups that Melanie made for all of us at Christmas time. We're missing our trio sister, Danielle Dresser.
It wasn't just one of us. This is a group effort. Angelina reached out to me. We had first met in New York. We were reading for Lady Jane's Salon. Mm-hmm. So that was lots of fun. And that's where we got to meet. And, you know, we hit it off. We had a nice time together. And then, yeah, Angelina reached out to me because I'm kind of known as the writing lush. It's kind of my brand. And it's not just about the booze. It's about embracing pleasures, kind of embracing things that you can, like indulgences and having fun with that. So I suggested Danielle to be the moderator for the event. And after that event finished, we all had such a great time. Like, we just had fun. We just clicked. The conversation flowed. I'm like, we should do this all the time. It became like this whole like night out in that you can enjoy and people could come. And it felt like a night out with your friends, drinking, talking, having a good time. Angelina had the original idea. I had the idea that we should do it more often. And Danielle is like the amazing planner. She kind of put the structure to it.
You popularly do online events together with Love Sweet Arrow bookstore in Chicago. How did you choose Love Sweet Arrow? How did they get to be lucky enough to partner with you?
So I'm the unofficial author in residence for Love Sweet Arrow. I say unofficial because they named me that, and it's kind of just a joke title, although it is kind of become more of a thing. So I first met the owners, the mother-daughter team, Marissa and Roseanne, at a Windy City, which is a Chicago romance group, at a Windy City event. And this is when they were still in the planning stages. The store hadn't opened yet. And I was in the process of becoming a debut author. So we were kind of both in like those like pre-opening moments. And we connected and talked, and, I really want this store to succeed. I'm excited about a mother-daughter owned independent business that celebrates romance. And so I've, done everything I can to help support them. And so it was a no-brainer to do this with the Boozy Book Broads with them to kind of, make this event something that is connected to Love Sweet Arrow.
My book, Serving Sin, it's a bodyguard trope book. It is about a man who was a former Army Ranger. He was a war hero who, right after he came home, he rescued, this was 13 years ago, he rescued a kidnapped Mexican heiress. She just turned 18. He rescued her from a kidnapping. 13 years later, we've now discovered that Roman Shepherd was a lost Spanish prince. He is the half prince of this Spanish wine growing kingdom. He is now the head of an elite security firm. He saves people across the globe. And he has been recalled back to Mexico, asked to come back to Mexico to take care and protect that heiress, who is now the CEO of her father's company at Zenobia Trujillo. So he decides, yes, I will go, I will protect her, and I'm never, ever going to want her as bad as I want to. Where Zenobia says, I'm an adult, I am 31 years old, I have had an intense crush on this person for 13 years, I would like to figure out what that's all about. So in the, it's a forced proximity in that they can't and they want to, and circumstances of it being a romantic suspense-ish kind of book bring them closer and closer and closer together.
Too Good to Be Real. Here's a copy. You can see. I like to say it is the Austen land for rom-com lovers. So you will catch, there are a lot of little Easter eggs from Austen land, like woven through. My editor also loves that movie, and I kind of went overboard with the references, and she caught every single one. Austen land is about a resort, or it's kind of like an estate that you can go to and experience the world of Jane Austen. In my book, there is a resort called Notting Hill, where you can experience what it's like to be in a rom-com. So it's like a LARP, a live action role-playing experience for romantic comedies. You kind of get to dive in and have all of those moments that you see on the screen that you think could never happen in real life. And what happens is a lot of these things are scripted, but things start happening off script, and it becomes this, is this real, or is this part of the fantasy? And it becomes like, you get very immersed. Like, it's an immersive experience, and it starts to be difficult. Just like in Austen land, it starts to be difficult to figure out where that line is drawn. And people catch feelings.
I really love reading authors' dedications and acknowledgments. And acknowledgments is where I find some good stuff. Yeah. And I'm going to start with Melanie this time. Mm-hmm. Why did you refer to Too Good to Be Real as the murder book?
Okay, so Too Good to Be Real. This is one of those things where the idea for this book was a gift from the gods. It was like this lightning bolt moment, awesome inspiration. I loved it. My editor loved it. It was like, yes, we're doing this. And anything that comes that easily, there's going to be a price to pay later. And there was. So this book was written in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Which right there, I have working from home husband, children, both on remote school. It was incredibly stressful. I ended up with stress-induced shingles. We didn't know what was wrong with me. We thought it might be my kidneys. We thought it was, so I ended up having to go to the ER pretty early on in the pandemic, which was scary in and of itself, to have to go to the hospital when the doctors were still figuring out all the protective gear and not knowing what was wrong with me. And they did all these different scans, and finally, like 4 days later, the rash showed up, and oh, it's shingles. Like, okay. So the book literally tried to kill me, the stress from the book.
So Angelina, you thank your audiobook narrator, Scarlett Hayes. Yes. And I don't typically see any authors thanking the narrators of their audiobooks. So I really thought that was impressive and admirable that you did that. So why was it important for you to thank her?
Audiobooks are such a draw right now that if you get a good and powerful narrator, like, they're selling books for you. They're doing the job of, turning these books into living things for people. She had a very specific duty in being able to do Spanish words, Spanish accents. She read Lush Money, and it was amazing. But then she read the second book in the series, Hate Crush. At that point, knowing the characters and knowing my voice and knowing my passion level and eroticism, she just made that second book into an entire audio play. She does it so well, to the point that I regularly have readers reaching out to me saying, it was so amazing. The narrator's incredible. She gets a lot of commendations. So with Serving Sin being the third book, I was really excited about that because of the skill set she brings to it. I'm very specific about what is their Spanish knowledge? How strong is their accent? What's their understanding? What their experience in the United States? She was so precise in dealing that in such a respectful way. I just loved her. So it's also like, I want everyone to be using her because she's amazing. It was like 5th or 6th grade with my girlfriend, Stephanie, and we would have sleepovers, and she had all of these super romances. So they were thicker, they were definitely sexier. And like, she would have big sleepovers. So it would be like 2, 3, 4 of us. Everyone else would be like out in the living room, and we doing dance parties and whatever. And I'm in her huge papasan chairs, like reading the super romances, and people are coming in like, Angelina, I'm like, don't bother me. But then also on my mom was a Kathleen Woodiwas fan. So I picked up The Rose in Winter and just loved it. And then I was like snatching all of them.
I was babysitting, but I was like 10 years old at the time. And back then you could babysit that young. And there's this book on the coffee table and I pick it up and I was like, oh, whoa, what is this? So it was Savage Thunder by Joanna Lindsay. And there is sex on a horse, not with a horse, on a horse.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for making that distinction.
That was it for me. Like I started going to the library and taking more out and more out. There was one librarian in particular who always gave me the stink eye. So I would wait till she wasn't at the counter because this was before self-checkout. So I would like kind of hover and wait until she was not there and then bring my stack of romances up to the counter to check out. My mom had no problem with me reading them, which is great. And I'm the same with my daughters, anything they want to read. Although I did say they could not read my books until they were at least 16.
Okay. Can they read Angelina's books?
No. I mean, it's up to you, but my sons are all adults, almost 23 and 20 now. And they were like at the end of high school when the first book came out. And, I was like, do you think you'll read it? I signed a book up to both of them. And the older one, at that point, he probably was like 21. He was like, yeah, I might read it. And the baby was like, the only person I said cannot read it is my stepdad. And he totally did read it, but we just agree not to talk about it.
I always wonder, is that awkward for romance authors? Do they let their parents read it? Do they tell them, oh, don't read these chapters?
I'm a huge proponent of romance in that mystery. You have to have a mystery. Sci-fi, you have to have some element of science fiction. Romance is a love story. And so to pretend that you don't need sex in them or a sexual illusion or that physical component is ridiculous. And our problems with it have nothing to do with whether the genre is valid or not. Our problems with it have all to do with our kind of, Western civilization and the things we've come up with. We are all hardworking writers. We are creating art. We're creating amazing escapism. We have nothing to be ashamed of. And we really need to embrace that as a genre and as writers. We all work way too hard to carry much shame about what we're doing.
Take a sip if you were an adolescent when you read your first romance novel. Take a sip if you pilfered your first romance novel from a family member's stash. Take a sip if you have looked up a curious word in a historical romance and found out it was a euphemism for the male member.
Mm-hmm.
Take a sip if you can name at least 3 romance tropes.
Oh.
Take a sip if you bookmark the good parts, meaning sex, obviously.
I think I have done that in the past, but I don't think I do it now.
You can take a sip if you've done it in the past. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
I'll give it to you.
Actually, 5 of my favorite romance scenes here bookmarked here at the bottom, and I put them away. I have my own bookmarked.
You own multiple copies of a single romance novel because you love it so much.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. You own a signed copy of a romance novel.
I mean, I just...
You read romances with unappealing book covers because the description sounds so good.
Yeah, I've definitely done that before.
Boy, I have not. You have sent a friend a romance novel because they needed cheering up.
Oh yeah.
Really? Wow.
You go to conferences, you get so many books, and so I kind of like have this stash where I know if any, I kind of give them as gifts to friends just randomly.
I have a dear friend who will say specifically, like, I need a romance, and I will, find the one that they need.
This last one I added, take a sip if you have subscribed to Reader Seeks Romance on YouTube.
Oh, I did that.
Oh, I haven't. I'm so... Oh my God.
Oh, I think Melanie should win just for that.
I do too. I feel super guilty.
Oh, we're both winners because we're on the show.
Thank you again, Angelina and Melanie, for joining me here on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thanks so much for having us, Liz. This was super fun.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.